we already talked a little bit about the movie, the first Top Gun movie, and some of the serial disappointments associated with what a summer movie has to dramatize, right?
Sure.
And that was the egos and all that kind of stuff, which really was not accurate. But it was kind of an interesting thing. And, everybody in the squadron was involved in making the movie, but you were probably as much or more involved as anybody because you did a lot of the flying and everything. But can you talk a little bit about the sort of how we helped with the script and what it was actually like to do the flying scenes and then, anything memorable from that time?
Jaws, we talked about this yesterday, or was it yesterday, the day before yesterday, briefly about that. And I said, I think my impression is that people have movie fatigue, but evidently not, because people want to talk about it. But it was an interesting process. I walked in the door March of '83, and it was already tentatively in the works, right? I think Boomer Wilson, who was our skipper, basically said, "Hey, this is happening," and that was it was obviously, it didn't come out till April of '86. So, but anyway, so they hired a contract writer named Jack Epps, really nice guy, who came down. I'll tell this story because, like I said, I'm confused, I'm old, and I don't have a good memory. But Jack came down, really nice guy, and met his wife too. And his assignment from Paramount was, hey, hang around with these guys, right? Soak up the ambiance, right? And so we did. We included him as best we could. We actually took him flying, got him a little backseat ride in F5F, and he hung around in any portion of the brief or debrief that was not classified, and certainly going to the club and walking through the halls. And so he supposedly did research, and he went back to the Hollywood Hills. God rest his soul. I think Jack's gone. But he wrote this script, and we got it. And my standard, probably unkind opinion was, he went back to Hollywood Hills and smoked a pile of ganja, because I don't know what the hell he was doing there, but it was awful.
Yeah,
it was awful. But the good news was that I think part of the deal, again, Jaws, I'm old and unconfused, but I recall that we had the opportunity to chop that thing.
Yep.
And by God, we did. I mean, you might as well.
Told him we told him we weren't
paint, sent it back to him. I mean, it was crap.
Yeah, we weren't going to make the movie unless they changed it, because it was so bad.
And that went through several revisions because it sucked that bad. And then, so they actually got something. I mean, you could say, okay, it's a turd, but we could polish it. It still wasn't great, but it was like, okay, this is where we're. And then even going forward, there was still a lot of fighting, right? And because of who we were, just one aside. I mean, I remember we'd watch the dailies. We'd go out and fly an event, and then we watched the dailies with the rough cuts, the video, before we went out and flew the next day. And this is in the middle of, while we're still very busy trying to run the Navy Fighter Weapons School. So we're doing a lot of this stuff early morning while there's academics going on, or late in the afternoon or on the weekends. And then in between classes, we did a lot of the desert flying up in Fallon. But we'd watch the dailies, and it was awful. Basically, it was it Tony Scott was the director?
Director,
Is that right?
Yep. Tony.
Wow. And he had no concept of how airplanes move through the sky. So he was running the cameras at different speeds, and it was just awful. And then we'd have, as you can see in the movie, you got airplanes that are, not to shoot my watch off, but they're like literally like this, right? It's like, I'm closing the guns. And it's like, you're not. You're Blue Angel number 4 right now. You're not killing anybody but yourself. So there's a lot of that crap going on. So in the hallway one day, Jerry Bruckheimer and I'm going to clean this line up, but Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson are in the hallway, and we're just blasting them about the technical inaccuracies of some of the crap that we've been asked to do. And he goes, guys, we're not making a documentary. We're making a movie. Picture this. Yeah. Big screen. Afterburners, rock music, hot chicks. You're all going to get lucky. And we all went, we can work with that. So there was a lot of compromise.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of compromise. Yeah. But even in the dialogue, and I feel the need for speed and all that stuff. We had a lot of this stuff. We sent a couple guys up to Paramount to redo some of the in-air dialogue because it was so.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and a lot of it is direct lifts. Also, though, from the way it'd be like, I hate it when that happens.
Oh yeah. Well, that's true.
Or do some pilot shit. That was a direct lift from what we would actually say.
Right. So back right when they cast, once they did the casting, We went over to the club, Jaws. I don't know if you were there or not, but they sat us in the club. It was a quiet afternoon. They bought pitchers of beer and they just said, tell us stories. Tell us stuff that happened. So, for example, the flat spin where Goose dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the actual issue with the airplane. If the F-14 was in an upright flat spin, that due to the ejection sequence with the canopy coming off and the back seat coming out or front seat coming out, because of the airflow around the airplane, that the canopy could be in the proximity of the back seat flight path. So, and that had happened. We lost guys to that exact sequence. Now, they didn't portray it. They attempted. They made an effort to portray that properly, whereas in fact they couldn't command eject, and they needed to jettison the canopy, weighed a couple of potatoes in very non-technical terms, so that the back seat and the front seat could come out and clear the canopy. So they did that. We talked about I was in the Gulf of Sidra on the Kennedy. We talked about intercepting Su-22s and MiG-23s, and I was telling them, matter of fact, that on an intercept, we joined up on a couple of Su-22s that were coming out to the ship, and a guy named Byron Olson, call sign Bam Bam, because he looked like Bam Bam from the Flintstones. He's a big, strong, handsome Nordic dude. Anyway, Bam was on my wing. Guido was at Pat Morganelli was in my back seat, and we literally, went over top. Now we didn't fly like this on him, and then kind of, but there's all that going on, and then Bammer was on the wingman's right side. And the guy came up on guard and basically said, Gypsy 212. And then that's when Bammer gave him the Hawaiian good luck sign. So they're writing all this stuff down, right? All the stuff, we'd say something like Jaws was saying, all the irreverent, silly things that we'd say. And they were scribing everything down. So a lot of that got incorporated in the movie. So yeah, but all in all, to answer your question, we're happy we did it. It was, irritating, annoying. Some of the people were hard to deal with. And not to mention names, but the most interesting people, I thought, were some of the behind the scenes, the special effects guys, some of the technicians we met. We went up and they invited us up to Paramount to have a cast and crew screening. We all sat in the big theater in Paramount after we were kind of given a little tour, and met some of the people that did special effects and all that stuff. And they were very proud of their product. It was an interesting group of people, but it was a big distraction, and it was tough. So at times,
it was interesting meeting the actors too. I think it was Mike Galpin and myself who took Tom Cruise and Tony Edwards to a bar because they were doing their research. And a lot of people think actors just show up on the set and do their thing. They actually deeply research the characters they're supposed to be playing. So among other people, we were the people that, and I'd had no idea who Tom Cruise was. It was this little guy in a ponytail. And I had never seen Risky Business or anything like that. All these girls are running up to him. Oh, you're Tom Cruise. I'm like, this guy's going to play us. But he did a brilliant job. And since then, obviously, he's an amazing actor.
I want to ask you about the second movie, but before, I have a quick question. As the first movie came out, that gave Top Gun huge amount of publicity. Did you have to do any kind of attitude adjustment or expectation adjustment with pilots who were coming through because they saw the movie and they wanted to be at Top Gun and they had this distorted view of what it was all about?
The guys that were coming, I think we're still very much aware of the accurate,
so it didn't distort.
Expectations were, right? And honestly, since then, not only through reserve time after I got out of Top Gun, but even through my airline career, I met a lot of people, a lot of guys, a lot of men and women who said, the reason I joined the Navy was because I saw that movie. The reason I went to flight school, the reason I went to the Naval Academy, the reason I went to the Air Force Academy. I mean, literally, countless number of men and women, young men and women that are now, either serving or continue to serve, I think are motivated by that movie. So at the very end of the day, in spite of all the stories and the grinding of gears and the disappointments or the less than satisfactory portrayal of Top Gun in general, certainly in the first one, it was a wonderful recruiting tool and brought a lot of very talented, motivated, dedicated people into our line of work. And at the end of the day, I think one of the things that we didn't talk about earlier, but it obviously is true, is that as an instructor, as a student going through there, as an instructor being there, and then after the day, someone shows up that's motivated, professional, on time, receptive, humble. You become invested in their success because you see yourself in them, and you know, and you understand, and you recognize that the reality is that they are the replacement. They are the evolution. They are the continuation of the bloodline. And so I think that's the one thing that the movie did. Both movies have done. It was done that has advanced that. And my standard line, when I had got any grief from any Air Force guy, and would say, "Oh, Top Gun," I'd say, "Yeah, because Iron Eagle was so awesome."
So
like, not only Iron Eagle 1.
Does anybody remember that
12,
movie?
Iron Eagle 13, Iron Eagle 14. It's like, don't tell me that you didn't get lucky at the club because of Top Gun, but nobody ever got lucky at the club because of Iron Eagle 12. Nobody.
Of course, the attack guys would say, attack guys make history while fighter guys are making movies. Yeah, okay.
Right. But they also benefited from our hard work, right? So there you go.